You're watching the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network. Now it's time for the Brent and Austen Show.
Reboot. We had to reboot. The system shut down on us. Well, speaking of shutting down, DeAndre Hopkins shutting down. Is that going to be it? Nice career for DeAndre Hopkins. Kind of put him in like what it feels like to me is a little bit of, I don't know, like a A.J. Green, Julio Jones. It goes fast, you know? It really does. It goes fast. And, I mean, there was a part of the career where in the prime where it was like going against Jalen Ramsey, Houston, and the Jags, like really, really good. I think there's been good since. It just wasn't consistently good to me. And they did have some years in Arizona as well that were consistently good. So that is some of the news. Apparently, he's told Andy Reid that it's going to be it for him. Brent Martineau, Jason Hamby, Austen Lane. Brent and Austen Show, Action Sports Jax 24/7 network. Had a little crash on the computer, so we had to reboot the thing. If you're jumping on YouTube, just get into the next link. You won't be listening to us if you're in the old link right now. So thanks for hanging out with us. And in fact, probably we'll get to. I always like to at least mention some of the chat. And I know we saw some of you guys hanging out and having some comments. So let me see if I can find some of the things we missed from the old one carry over. Did it go out a couple of times? No, good. We had it rocking a little for the most part for an hour, and then something just crashed on us. So, why can't I ever see the chat anymore on my layout on YouTube is no good. I can't see the chat the way I used to see it. So, forget about getting the chat stuff in. If I didn't mention you, I'm not mentioning you. Hamby, you got it figured out?
Yeah, we're good.
Hamby, what? Let's. I love high school baseball, high school softball.
Real quick, I might have made a gaffe.
What did you do?
Adam Shelfer tweeted about Hopkins.
Oh my gosh!
Unbelievable. I fell for it. I fell for it bad.
That's why you trust nobody, people.
It's got so many.
That's why you trust nobody.
That's unreal.
You just trust nobody. This is. I used to get that all the time, but I have not been hit by that in a long time. And the young guy got hit by it.
I got hit by it.
So he's not retiring.
No.
Maybe he should.
Maybe he should.
How old is Hopkins?
Goodness gracious. Are you serious? I
can hear you typing. You're Googling.
I am. He's 32.
Yeah, I mean,
we'll be 33 for the next season.
Yeah, which is fine. Like again, he can play. He doesn't scare you. Is the point at this stage of his career? And I don't think he has for the last couple of years. He was really, 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 really good in a stretch, and we saw it up close and personal with the Houston Texans. So I know, Logan. Listen, what the guy's just throwing stuff up there. I mean, unbelievable. What's disappointing is, just a little backstory here, Logan, is when I used to be on the old other radio station, not even ESPN 690, way back, when social media just started, we would get this all the time. Like, you'd get fooled all the time. And there are still a lot of people that fool, but now you don't get fooled. Like, I don't know if it was the blue check mark that happened or whatever else, but now you're just aware of it. And so you'd be like, I remember just being in the middle of a show, be like, Jags just signed, free agency was the worst. Jags just signed so-and-so free agents. Like, no, they didn't. No, they didn't. And it's like, damn, but it happened like 3, 4, 10 times. And then it was like, okay, I'm not doing this anymore. Now and now you'll learn from this, Hamby. That's a good learning experience. I mean, you saw this yesterday. You just assumed that it was Schefter. It was Scheffler. What do you have? Shelfer. What do you have? A blue check mark?
Yeah.
Listen, you're like, hey, I don't know why this hasn't made the rounds. He did it yesterday. Well, that's why it hasn't made the rounds, Hamby. Yep. It's not news.
Would have been crystal clear.
Although we could have broke the news. What would be fantastic is if we say it, we just think it's real, and then like in 5 minutes he comes out and retires. We have to get like really lucky. Listen, folks, there's no accountability in this business anymore because of crap like this. And we just did it. We just tried to retire DeAndre Hopkins. All right, I do have this thought. A lot of conversation about Myles Garrett. And a couple of weeks ago when the Myles Garrett thing came out, maybe it was last week. I think it was. It's been a long week at the Super Bowl. And the thought was, okay, where's he going to go? And you're like, well, why is he going to come to Jacksonville, right? Because you already have Josh Hines out and you have Trayvon Walker. Mm-hmm. So I'm using Myles Garrett as an example here. But I also want to hit on something that we said about the Philadelphia Eagles, and we've applauded them for it. It doesn't matter what they already have. They just keep going to get. And they keep going to get. And they go get blue chippers and blue chippers and blue chippers because blue chippers win. You're better than the other team. Look at the Lakers. They had Anthony Davis. He's a hell of a player. They go get Luka. Or maybe the NBA forced it or whatever. But the bottom line is you can't have enough of them or you can still upgrade them. So I wasn't I'm wrestled between, the Jags are good. They got a tandem at pass rushers that very few people have in the National Football League. But then, wait a minute, maybe you should go get a Myles Garrett to make you that much better. Do you have all three? Do you get rid of one? Do you just upgrade one? Is that a possibility? Is that what you're supposed to be doing? The Lions got rid of running backs that had 17 touchdowns in the season, and they replaced them with Jahmyr Gibbs and guys like that. They had Hawkinson, who's a very good player, and they go get Laporta. They get cheaper, younger, trade them, all that stuff. The Eagles have good backs, Swift and others. They move on. They go get Saquon Barkley. So if we're looking at the best teams in the league, now not everybody does this, but Baltimore did. Okay, we'll go with Derrick Henry. The Bills didn't necessarily do this. They actually retracted some of their bigger names, got rid of them, like a Stephon Diggs, and still were good. Will we see the Bengals do that? Will we see another team do it? Are the Eagles going to be a little bit more of a blueprint where they've done it, seems like, a lot? Mm-hmm. A.J. Brown, Saquon Barkley, you name it. And I wonder if we should be like, yeah, maybe the Jags should be doing this. We think they're okay. They're pretty good, but pretty good's not good enough. And I get in this trap. I'm going to admit it. Relative trap to where the Jags have been. Their roster, by the way, is much better than where their roster has been for a lot of the years that I've covered the Jags, and 17 of them. That's just a fact. But it doesn't mean it's good enough, which we also know it's not. So you have to be really careful to run things back. And that brings in, wait a minute, okay, Brian Thomas Jr., you're really good. Okay, we'll go get another one. Go get T. Higgins. Mm-hmm. Go get Deebo Samuel.
No thanks.
I'm just go get Ted McMillan. Defensively, Myles Garrett's out there. Well, wait a minute. Let's take a look.
Cooper Kupp.
Again, we can sit here and argue each player. But do you go get another stud? Do you go buy a blue chip? Because honestly, you have Pro Bowl caliber players. You know that. But you are still wondering, do we have blue chip players? When you have players like, really, Myles Garrett's the only one that fits here. Mm-hmm. The 5th overall pick, you hope fits there. So that kind of plays into the conversation. T. Higgins, to me, you don't know if he's a blue chip guy yet. I don't think you do know. You can like it, you can think it, but I don't think he's really that different than some of the players you have when it comes to Josh Hines-Allen or Trayvon Walker. He looks like he's really good. But is he a blue chip year after year defensive player of the year nominee, or is he a number one receiver in the terms of Higgins being that guy? So, but I do think you need to explore it, and you need to look into it, and you can't have enough of it. And right now, I don't think the Jags have enough blue chip that we know players. They are like edgy on the column, but they're really not in that blue chip category year in, year out. And so if you can get one, upgrade to one, or add to your room with one, you really have to do it because the Philadelphia Eagles just said this is how you do it. This is what we see in baseball every year. The Dodgers, the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Cubs, whatever, those big teams, that's what they do. They just keep adding. Look what we see in the NBA. They keep adding. They try to get the trio of players. That's how you win. So I think the Jags have to be really careful to be like, you all right over there? Mm-hmm. The Jags have to be really careful to just say, oh, yeah, we're good. And I've changed a little bit on that over the years, and maybe even a little bit on the Myles Garrett front. I think maybe you do have to look at that more. Does it make sense? Now, the thing that doesn't make sense from a Jag standpoint is, are you mortgaging your future to do it? And when you go get a guy like Myles Garrett, you're giving up X pick and this pick and that. Does that make sense? There are a lot of things that still don't make sense about it. But I do think you have to explore the idea and just don't shut it down. Higgins, is it too much money? Do we know he can be a 1? Yeah, Delphonic, I think he did.
I was trying to get this in. Another candidate.
Oh, we're going to add another candidate to the GMs? Bills Director of Player Personnel Terrence Gray in the middle of the week. Henderson candidates plus at least one potentially more internal candidates? Who else would be other than Ethan Waugh?
Well, that sentence doesn't make sense.
The
Plus
whole
at
thing
least
doesn't.
one potentially more. It's not grammatically.
I had to. I thought you were 0 for 2 for a second here because I was like, is this really rap sheet? Because first of all, he never even says the Jaguars interview process for GM kicks in, so he's not specific to what position, even though we know what he's talking about. All right. Now you're scaring the hell out of me today. You're falling down. You got DeAndre Hopkins retiring, and you got Ian Rapp's not even talking sentences. It's like he's in the good stuff early on a Tuesday morning.
Oh, dear.
So anyway, Deebo Samuel does nothing for you.
No, thank you.
But what about the blue chippers in general? Like, do any of these? Where's Higgins for you?
I mean, look, I wouldn't complain about it by any means, but I still think a lot of those teams, like the Eagles, I think they made those kind of moves when they were one piece away. Right, or at least when they felt that, whether they were or not. I don't think the Jags feel or are one piece away. So I think until you get there, then that's really when you make the move, because you're going to be sacrificing picks to go get. I mean, any of these guys. Obviously, Myles Garrett would cost you a lot more than anybody like Cooper Kupp or even probably Deebo Samuel. But until you're one player away, continue building from within. Try to build through the draft. Save your picks. And go forward. Deebo Samuel really doesn't do anything for me. I wouldn't even put out a feeler because the injuries.
He doesn't do much for me either. And we just did this dance last year with Ayuk for like a whole month. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
All right. Not every show is going to be Brandon Ayuk. We did it for the whole thing. It was Brandon Ayuk. And it was Higgins. Calvin Ridley. It was a little bit of Higgins. That's right. We had that. A lot of bit of Higgins.
That was those 3. Yeah.
And we did it for like.
A month.
It was a solid month. It was from right now until free agency and franchise tag season, right?
Yep.
And
which is not that far away.
No, I think franchise tag season is like February 18th, which is a week from today. I don't want to play that game. And I don't think Deebo. It's funny when we bring these topics up in real time. See, this is where you got to ask yourself. You got to have the kahunas, man. That's what I say. This is what Roseman does. And I think a lot of people were talking Philly about Saquon Barkley, but I think you also have to ask yourself, what were you saying about it at the time? Now, we don't talk the Eagles all the time or the Giants. But if you go back to those conversations, and I don't know what they were talking about, ESPN, NFL Network, the rest, but if that conversation was in Jacksonville, we would probably be saying like, hey, man, that'd be pretty cool. But do you really need to do it? Do you want to pay $13 million? Like, I always love that we get concerned about $13 million like it's coming out of our pockets. Like, it's not.
Because we're used to playing the Madden GM.
but a lot of us will just naturally say, $13 million for a running back today's age, you can get one in the 4th round, right? Same thing, why would you pick him in the 1st round? You get him in the 4th round. So, now you can't get Saquon Barkley in the 4th round. You can't get him in the 1st round, quite frankly. So, that's what I'm saying. If you think about the way the conversation was with Barkley to the Eagles, my guess is a lot of people around the country were saying, hey, it'd be kind of cool, but it's not really necessary. We're already good. We'll just go get it back. But they don't win the Super Bowl without Saquon Barkley. Ironically, they didn't need him as much in that day.
But they were able to distribute to other people because all the attention was on him.
But he was awesome this year, right? He became over in the year, became like the pulse of their team. And they've got a lot of different players, but they were leaning on him, man. He was the guy. So I don't think they win without him. I don't think they get to where they got without him. I really don't. I think he changed their team. So, yeah, we know where
that.
the $13 million spent. But so I say the same thing now about Higgins. I'm like, okay, what does it make sense? At number 5, you can go get Ted McMillan or somebody like that might be even better than Higgins and a lot cheaper. We just experienced that with Calvin Ridley versus Brian Thomas Jr. So do we caution ourselves, or are we like, no, man, that's what the good teams do? I think we have to start asking, would Howie Roseman do it? And I know that sounds egregious, but it was like, would the Eagles go get T. Higgins if they're in the Jags spot? Would the Eagles go get Myles Garrett? Would the Eagles go get Deebo Samuel? Like, why not ask that question? They're the ones that have been willing to do it more than anybody else. Mm-hmm. We can ask if the Ravens want to, too. It's okay. Like, it's a copycat league. You're trying to find the blueprint. Well, you get closer to them by doing that. Do you get closer to the Eagles by saying, no, we're good. We're just going to elevate our guys. We're going to keep building it. We're not there yet. Okay, well, when the hell are you going to get there if you don't add some of the pieces? So I think it's a fascinating internal conversation, and I think you got to be gutsy. You got to go for it sometimes. Now, you can't be reckless. You still got to be smart. And the evaluations and the dollars and everything else really factor in here. So we'll see. I'm not advocating for them to go get Myles Garrett, T. Higgins, Deebo Samuel. I just think you probably have to look at what the Eagles did and explore them a lot closer than you would normally. I think most of the time over the years, we would ask somebody in whoever in the Jags organization be like, yeah, like, why would we do that? Like, where's the logic? But I'm telling you, that question's probably been asked a lot in Philadelphia, too, by somebody internally. Like, why are we doing this? And Roseman does it, and look where it's landed him. Landed him with a ton of blue-chip talent. Mm-hmm. That's the moral of the story here in the last 15 minutes. How do you get more blue-chip talent that you know is blue-chip talent? Like, to be honest with you, your guy from Georgia, Jordan Davis,
mm-hmm.
I mean, he's a big body, but he is not proven to be a blue-chip talent.
No.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Right? I mean, and in some respects, he might have even disappointed, but they hide that because they've got all these other dudes.
Mm-hmm.
But he hasn't been everything, everyone. Like, I think people assume because he's part of that whole lineup and the dogs, and like he's a contributor, but he really hasn't been like, whoa. Now, Jalen Carter has been every bit of that, right? And then they get all the help from the corners this year and all the other guys that they've accumulated. But yeah, I think it's a fascinating look at how they're going to do this in Jacksonville. And I think if your immediate reaction is, now we don't need that, I don't think that's the right reaction. Because the bottom line is, yeah, you probably do need it. The question is, does it make sense? Is it logical? Is it financially or fiscally responsible to do? Those are good questions. And those don't always come out on the positive side. But again, you got to be right. You got to be right on those sides. So, and then we'll see where it lands in the draft and everywhere else. But I don't think the Jags, I really don't have a feel that the Jags are going to be huge spenders in this draft, in the free agency. Now, I don't know if that changes because of a whole new front office. But where are they spending outside of like right guard?
Corner.
Yeah, could be a corner.
But yeah, they're not a whole lot of spots.
Yeah, not a lot of spots to spend that you're not already spending without doubling up. I just don't think they're going to do it, but they do have 20 draft picks. And Liam Cohen said that multiple times, and he wasn't talking about, hey, we got this much cap space. You never heard him say we got this much cap space. It said, hey, we got 20 draft picks. We got 20 draft picks. The view is, let's go draft and develop, and then we'll sprinkle in some other guys and be okay. Can we go find here in Jacksonville the Zach Bond kind of find, where you actually take the guy and, boom, he elevates his game because he's a perfect fit. That'll be interesting to see. The Gator Nationals coming up in March. Don't forget, we've got a busy next month or so with some fantastic events from the Daytona 500 this week to the Gator Nationals the week of March 6th right there at the hallowed grounds of the Gainesville Raceway. 330-mile-an-hour nitro machines. If you've never been, you're going to love it. We've been there. It's awesome. It's fun to see. Just a few seconds, but worth the few seconds of watching. If you've never been, you can feel it with 11,000 horsepower. NHRA.com is the place to go. Gator Nationals will also bring you our Road to Victory Lane special from Daytona International Speedway on Sunday. More with the Cup date coming up at 1 o'clock too on Wednesday and Thursday this week with Stuart Weber. But go visit NHRA.com for more on the Gator Nationals and how you can get a ticket and one of the fun experiences March 6th through the 9th for the NHRA Gator Nationals. Jalen Hurts at Disney World. It's pretty cool they still do this all these years later.
Would you want to go?
Probably not, but depends if you've got family and stuff and just the whole idea. Like, that's why I think it is cool. Like, some guys now turn it down. Like Brady, I think he did it so many times. I don't know how many times he went. But this is cool that he thinks it's cool. He's not too cool for it. He's like, no, this is the experience. This is what I grew up watching the Super Bowl. The guy says, I'm going to Disney World. I want to be that guy. I've told you in the past, right? I've been on that commercial before, shooting behind Tom Brady when he said it. I didn't tell you that. I usually bring it up every year.
No, haven't heard it.
Yeah. I'm like on a still frame. I'll have to find it. I want the whole world to know. Now, I haven't been to Disney in forever now. When was the last time you were at Disney World?
No idea.
I mean, I used to go like every 2 weeks, it felt like, even though that's not true. And now I haven't been to Disney in, before the pandemic. Ooh, my life is good. I haven't been there in like more than 5 years. We'll be back.
There's a saying in sports, you can't win them all, but you can win a lot with good folks on your team. Like that one painter, First Coast. It's tough to beat the sun in Florida, so your home fades. It's tough to beat that HOA when they come calling. Beat the sun, beat the HOA with that one painter, First Coast. And it's a good time to do it. Less rain to work around, and painting in mild temperatures is perfect. After all, the paint bonds to the surface so much better. Give that one painter First Coast a call at 904-417-3557 or look them up at first-coast.thatonepainter.com. Fast estimate, guidance on color and HOA requirements, and the highest quality job you'll find anywhere. Be a big winner in your neighborhood with that one painter First Coast on your team.
Just be yourself. Maybe we're talking about being a dad or a mom, a first responder or a teacher. Maybe it's a sports fan. We love those. We're talking about anyone in the Jacksonville community. At Community First Credit Union, just be yourself means being real. When you partner with Community First, it's straightforward. They're people connecting with you so you can be yourself. I've been coming here to Community First for years. This is the Bartram branch, the one I usually come to. And they have mortgage loans, personal loans, and auto loans. And I'm almost done paying off that truck loan. Just a few more months. Good rates, easy online banking, and friendly customer service when I have a question. It's easy to be myself with Community First. They live up to the slogan in their name. Community First has partnerships in the Jacksonville community with the Iceman, the Florida Theater, the Jacksonville Zoo, and many more. Visit one of the Jacksonville branches or find out all you can do with Community First Credit Union at communityfirstfl.org so you can just be yourself.
For the game day hustle and every day in between. Juggling my show, Jags Social, to going under the Friday night lights and a social life, it's a daily tournament. But this ride, MVP status. The all-new 2024 Lincoln Nautilus isn't just my car, it's my personal locker room, office on the go, and VIP lounge on wheels. Let's talk tech. My profile remembers everything from customizing my dash display to setting the ambient lighting and my signature scent. And wireless charging, essential for live tweeting scores. Whether I'm packing for a beach day with friends or heading to the gym, there's space for every passion. After dominating all day, this becomes my recovery zone. The massage feature is like having a personal PT on call. Life's a non-stop game, but with this ride, I'm always on my A game. The 2024 Lincoln Nautilus. Drive your passion.
People helping people. It's at the core of what Alive Credit Union is all about, and it's been that way for over 70 years. From the start in 1954 to today, the mission remains to inspire financial wellness and give you a financially fit lifestyle. Alive Credit Union and its employees are committed to not only serving their valued members, but also our community here in Northeast Florida. I had a chance to see that commitment firsthand as Alive partnered with our Action Sports Jacks 24/7 team to bring you Armada men's and women's soccer broadcasts. Inside the 18, it is a shot, and it's a goal! Chloe Chivers! And that connection to the community continues with Alive Credit Union's support of the Police Athletic League of Jacksonville. Alive Credit Union's commitment to our community also involves serving the financial needs of all first responders through the recent merger partnership with City and Police Federal Credit Union. Join the community and become a member of Alive Credit Union today. Find out the many ways you can be inspired in financial wellness at alivecu.coop.
You trust CGC to make your water great, and now you can trust CGC with your plumbing needs as well. Fast, convenient scheduling, licensed and insured. A quick call away at 904-552-1242.
You never know when you're going to have an issue with a shower, toilet, or maybe it's a sink that sometimes is easy to fix. All right, let's be honest. I'm not fixing anything. I'm totally staging this because when I have a plumbing problem, I call CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing.
Trained professionals, transparent pricing, customer satisfaction. Small problem or even a bigger issue. Right now, you can take 10% off any water heater. The experts with 25 years of experience at CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing can do it all. Call 904-552-1242 or visit cgcwater.com. For a limited time, CGC is waiving the trip charge on all related plumbing calls. CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing, an authorized independent Connecticut dealer. Florida license number CFC 1432579.
Welcome back to the Brent and Austin Show, streaming on the Action Sports Jacks 24/7 network.
Tony Vaselli has begun interviews, and as you just saw in Ian Rappaport reporting, as many as double-digit GM candidates and multiple inside potentially for the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's a little bit new. We knew of, or at least we know reportedly of 7 candidates, and that number has been out there. But apparently even more that are going to be a part of this. So we will continue to monitor. I actually thought about this. Should we play the envelope game for the GM? Maybe we should. And no, I haven't forgotten about the winners in the envelope game, but we had to get through the Super Bowl and everything else. I will get them. This is not going to be like Casey giving whoever the hat. I promise. We'll get you the prize. And so we had 2 winners for the envelope game for the coach, but maybe we should bring back the envelope game for the GM once we get a good idea of all the candidates. But that'll probably be in like the next day or two. And then we'll see how it happens up. Did you see the Gladstone comment? I saw somewhere on Twitter today, and I didn't verify this, and that could be a dangerous thing because look what just happened to Hamby as he got duped by some phony DeAndre Hopkins news. But somebody said that Mark Lamping and Gladstone went to the same high school in St. Louis. Well, that was wild. Yeah, I don't know who that is on Twitter. I see him tweeting a lot, but I don't know who it is. Is that like a newcomer to the game?
Nash Henry?
Yeah.
I think so.
I mean, I've seen it around, but it seems like tweeting a lot. Like, I don't know what should I know him? Should we know who it is? I'm not sure. But the bottom line is I thought I saw that nugget. I thought that's interesting. Now, keep in mind, they went to that high school like 30 years apart. Mm-hmm. So I don't think it's automatic for Delphonic. Yes, that you're going to get the Gladstone thing. All right, we'll play the envelope game. It's easy to do, right? But I think we want to make sure we know some of the candidates, or we can just go for it any time. So if anybody wants to send it in, we'll do it. sports@actionnewsjacks.com. And sports@actionnewsjacks.com. Send in the name. Obviously, if you can give us your handle, everything else, but we can find you, especially if you've got your email. And I think we have until mid-next week to figure it out. I'd like to win that Martineau jersey in the back. At $1.5 million, $1.5 is probably more like it for that. We got Austin coming in shortly here. We'll check in. Oh, look at that. We will check in. Here he is. And breaking news last night as we've got a fight date announced for Austen Lane and Mario Pinto, that will fight on March 1st. It did rhyme with March.
It did rhyme with Barch. Yeah, probably not the the best time to drop some fight news, as there's an absolute civil war right now going on my Facebook group over the halftime show still, which is just baffling to me. It was what it was. Can we just move on and be happy? No, we cannot, Brent. Everyone's got an opinion about it, especially growing up in central Wisconsin. Everyone's got a strong opinion about it, but nevertheless, didn't want to get it lost in the news cycle. So yes, finally got to announce my fight March 1st, UFC Apex. It's going down, and I'm not sure exactly what time yet. Have to check your local listings, obviously. They haven't really announced like what the fight order is going to be, but hopefully it'll be a little more prime time. Or if they want to give me the very first fight of the night as well, I'm cool with that too, man. Get in, get out.
Well, they should give us that news like by midnight the day before, if we're on the same pace.
literally when I'm making the walk to the cage, I'll go and put a tweet out, hey guys, I'm fighting right now, so go ahead and tune in real quick.
So what do we know about this guy? In the fight, by the way, your opponent changed. And I don't know if we said that, but I know we couldn't say too much, but you had told us that. So like about a month ago or a couple of weeks ago, you thought it was going to be somebody else. Ends up being Mario Pinto. What do you know? Obviously, you've known this guy, I think, was going to be the opponent for a couple of weeks. So you've started to do some work. Don't give us too much away. We don't want him having any advantage, and he's probably listening to the show.
Oh, without a doubt, man. We are worldwide. Brett, do they have like, because I think you might speak like Portuguese or something like that. Do they have like different like languages for our show or not? Like, can you hit like the SAP button on our show?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. You can if you're watching on the Action News Jax Now app, probably on Roku, Apple TV. I'm sure they have a button for that, like on your TV. I don't know if they do that on like your phone or computer. So if you're watching, but on the TV, I would assume that you can do that. So we might be in multiple languages.
Sounds like. Yeah, I'm trying to see what my Spanish sounds like.
I know my English doesn't sound too good most of the time, so I can only imagine what I sound like in multiple different languages.
Yeah. So this fight, it's funny because when I posted it, everyone's like, "Man, this is kind of short notice. It's a kind of big chance." Like, well, no, it's not short notice. I've known about this fight for a long time. I just couldn't release any information until recently, obviously. But I was going to actually, so for those of you that have been kind of following my journey, for my last fight, I actually had my fight camp out in Vegas at Extreme Couture with, like Sean Strickland and some of those guys. Sean Strickland just fought in Australia. Well, originally, and I won't give too much away, but I was going to fight a guy from that gym, a guy that I've trained with, that I've sparred with before. So it was kind of bittersweet because, I'm comfortable with the guy that I'm fighting, but also he's a good dude. I already know him personally. So it was going to be an interesting fight, an interesting dynamic. Nevertheless, I couldn't go back to Vegas to train at that gym because, he was going to be there.
Yeah.
And I was going to get ready to fight him. So then I had to set up my fight camp in South Florida at American Top Team, where I was originally going to have my fight camp for the last fight, but my opponent for my last fight, Robelis, Disane, went down American Top Team. So that's why I had to go to Vegas in the first place. So it's kind of crazy how the roles got reversed a little bit, where want to go train in Vegas, but now I have to go to Miami. And I could have been happier down here in American Top Team. So probably I would say, man, maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago, we found out that my opponent changed, and now it's going to be Mario Pinto. This will be Mario Pinto's first UFC fight. He came through Dana White's Contender Series last year. Got a KO win to get his contract. I won't give away too much in terms of the style and the skill set, but he's 6'4", kind of a taller dude. Not as tall as my last opponent, so I'm kind of looking forward to that because my last opponent was such an enigma in terms of how do you prepare for him because, there's not a lot of 6'8" guys or 6'7" guys that have competed in the Olympics at Taekwondo. So it was kind of hard to get a look and get a read of what I'll be facing, even though I had some great teammates to help me out as much as they could. For this opponent, it's going to be a little more traditional. He is a striker, but he's not like a dynamic striker like my last opponent was. So getting looks and everything down here in American Top Team in South Florida has been a little easier than my last opponent, who was more of like, that Taekwondo style, Olympian style.
You said 6'4". Do you know how much he weighs? Did you say that?
No, I didn't, but he's coming before like around 230, 235. So he's going to be a little on the smaller side, which is something I'm not really accustomed to seeing, just because usually guys kind of outweigh me and everything. So this will be a little bit of a difference as well.
Yeah, that's what is noticeable about the picture, and I didn't know too much, but I mean that's been the thing. Like you're in there with 270, 280. By the time they get to the cage, maybe even more sometimes.
Yeah,
like that's gonna it's gonna look different. It's gonna look this isn't going to look as much like a heavyweight fight, I guess, because like some of them look like a heavyweight fight, and you don't always look like a heavyweight because you're so fit. But it seems like this guy is going to be the same, so it's going to have a kind of a different aesthetic look to it on March 1st.
Yeah, it's definitely going to have a different kind of aesthetic. I think my last opponent weighed in at 265, but by the time he got to the cage, Robellis, man, I'd probably put him at 275, almost 280. I mean, he felt like 280 trying to take him down. So yeah, this is going to be a little more aesthetically pleasing for all the fans out there. I mean, I think UFC is definitely blowing the opportunity that this could be an OnlyFans special here, but it is what it is, man. I'm not going to tell Dana White how to make his money. Dude is obviously probably a billionaire for a reason, so I'm not going to push too hard. But yes, it should be an aesthetically pleasing fight, Brent.
Going back to what you said, why are you getting the second pick on these? Some of the, you said, hey, you kind of, is that just something you work out? How does that work out? It's like, well, it's okay. I'll go down to Miami. I'm in Jacksonville this time around, and I was going to go to Vegas. Like, how does that part work out when you guys are, planning these fights, or your management teams are putting them together, where you're going to go? Because this is new, obviously. Like when you went to Vegas, that was a new thing. You hadn't really done that for your training in the past, and it obviously worked. And so now it's like, okay, well, let's continue to do that, get some of the top training in the world, places like Vegas, places like Miami. You've said this multiple times. This gym in Miami is one of the best in the world. And so you're with quality fighters day in, day out, quality training. Not to say you can't get that here at home, but obviously it's a little bit different level when you're surrounded by that. There's only so many people that look like you that can fight like you here in Jacksonville. So, but how does that work? Like the next time, is it a coin toss? Like, do you win and be like, I'm going to go here?
So it's wild how it worked out, Brent, because for instance, for my last fight, the plan was to go to American Top Team. It was closer to Jacksonville. And the only reason why I couldn't was because my opponent kind of had the reservation before I did. So he was already down there training. So when the fight got announced for my last fight against Robellis, I probably had around 7 weeks to train, right? I mean, I was training the whole time, but obviously it was until the announcement, it was 7 weeks. So fight gets announced, we go to American Top Team, say, hey, we got a fight coming up, want to come down and train with you. And then they kind of told us, hey, unfortunately, we already got a guy that's training here that you're fighting. And it's not out of the realm to say, hey, just train at different times. But then it's like you're training against, the same training partners, and they know things. So it's just kind of a bad setup, right? So then for this fight coming up now in Vegas, the guy I was supposed to fight, who I trained with before, Brent, he's been at that gym for the past 3 or 4 years. So he almost has he kind of has this seniority or whatever, where it's I can't disrespect that. And once again, I wasn't going to go train at that same gym when, we're both going to be there training with the same guys and everything. So that's just kind of how it worked out. Usually the guy that's been in the gym longer kind of has the right then.
Yeah, that makes sense. I get that. And I think it really worked out well this time. You get a little bit of that, you get a little bit of this, and now that might, wherever that leads to the next fight down the road, we will see. So March 1st is the time, is the day, and Mario Pinto, the opponent, and the next fight for Austen Lane out in Vegas, by the way, on that Saturday night. And hopefully we'll find out more details, when to watch, where to watch, all those kind of things. But looking for a winning streak now here on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network. I don't know what people are talking about in the chat other than your fight. So I don't know if they're trying to be funny or if they're talking about real
with
stuff.
The guy on stilts. He's got nothing on you, Austin. Yeah, listen, my last opponent, he was 6'7". Yeah, you kind of had to. Yeah. Because here's the thing, right? So to take you behind the scenes, a little bit of a fight camp, it's consisted of a couple things, right? You have your wrestling practice, you have your sparring, you have your kickboxing, your striking classes, and then you have mitts, right? So like when someone holds mitts for you, I mean, there's not a lot of 6'7" mitt holders out there. And my coach back in Jacksonville, Seth Dupuis, he's a little on the shorter side. So like I kind of felt bad for him for the last fight. He's kind of has to do the same thing for this fight. He's actually got to like bring his arms up a little bit and hold his arms up there while I'm like, obviously throwing as hard as I can at the mitts and everything. So I hope he's got a good insurance provider. I'm not sure that's going to come off my end or whatever, but it can be a lot of wear and tear holding mitts, man, especially you got to hold those mitts really high.
Yeah, it's a challenge. I mean, I think that is a real challenge, especially at the heavyweight spot, to be able to mimic what you're going to see. And it changes. Like, again, we're saying different body types, different styles. The style you're going to get, even at the middleweight division or whatever division. But the heavyweight division, it's hard to duplicate it. I don't think people think about that very often, but that's a challenge. And again, part of the reason why Austin's bounced around a little bit here in these fight camps, because you're not going to be able to get all of that in Jacksonville. You can go to Vegas, you go to Miami, where a lot of these guys are gathered, and it really paid off in Vegas. We'll see. Hopefully it does the same in Miami as well. March 1st is the date. Hey, just to catch you up a little bit, as you did come out of fight camp today, there's a report from Ian Rappaport that the Jags might now have as many as double-digit candidates for this GM job. We've seen 7 candidates that we think we know are at least reported. But there are at least, there's another name that he pulled out today.
Terrence Gray.
Terrence Gray. Where is he from again?
Bills, Director of Player Personnel.
Okay, so Terrence Gray from the Bills. So that would be number 8. He said, reports it could be as many as 10 and multiple people inside the Jags building. So I'm really interested to see. I wonder who else could emerge inside the Jags building as getting an opportunity outside of Ethan Waugh for the GM job. We just did announce we are going to do the envelope game again. So sports at actionnewsjacks.com, sports at actionnewsjacks.com. I believe that by next Wednesday we'll have a GM. But if they keep adding people to the list, maybe I'm wrong about that. But maybe it's by the end of the week, of next week. I have it. Like there are plans to be made that everybody's going to the combine and as a full front office the following week, like 2 weeks from today, the Jags' new GM will likely be on the podium in Indianapolis, and so we think he's going to be in place by then. But we'll see. This is going to be a quick but arduous process, Austin, to get through now double-digit candidates. The Jags have really done their due diligence in this whole cycle. From interviewing, I think, as many as 10 candidates the first go-around in coaching, and now you're getting about the same kind of landscape covered with the GM.
2 things here, Brent. Number 1, are there any baseball GMs that are in talks here?
No, I don't think so. Well, I don't know. There are a couple of other names that I just don't know. We don't know. We haven't seen them yet. This name, Terrence Gray, I got that right, is the newest name that's joined the bunch, but we hadn't seen names for a couple of days. I'm assuming we'll get reports on a couple of other names if the Rappaport report is correct, that there's as many as 10.
Yeah, so then let me go and ask you guys this. Like, we can sit here and say that the Baalke decision was I don't say unexpected, but maybe like they weren't. I think Shad Khan was expecting to keep Trent Baalke, right? I think that was the plan for this up-and-coming season. Whatever happens, happens. Maybe some coaches don't want to come here because of Trent Baalke. Nevertheless, Shad Khan, the Jaguars organization, they pivot. And they decide to let go of Trent Baalke. We've seen in the past, Brent, when we talk about the GM head coach relationship, when the head coach has the gig and he kind of has the power, if you will, the diplomatic immunity to bring in kind of his own guy, a guy that he works with well. Are you excited that the Jaguars are interviewing so many candidates and doing their due diligence and doing their homework? Or are you kind of turned off by the idea of, well, you let Trent Baalke go, you bring in Liam Cohen, like, you tell me you guys don't really have your guy already? Like, you guys didn't have this guy kind of propped up already, and now we're just kind of waiting to see? Like, what side do you lean on, Brent? Like, are you excited for all this due diligence, or would you rather say, hey, we've known who we wanted the whole time, let's just go get him?
No, well, first of all, I don't know if I'm excited about the GM search in any capacity. It's hard to get me too excited about it, but I will say, like, I get what the Jags are doing here, and I think this makes a lot of logical sense because Shad Khan wasn't planning on replacing the GM. That's pretty apparent. He didn't do it a month ago. He could have. And on top of that, Well, then you're solidifying the front office with Tony Baselli. You're taking care of that part. You're hiring Liam Cohen. And then Liam Cohen's first order of business had to be, let's get the coaching staff in order. Because Kellen Moore just got hired by the Saints as well. He's going to have to grab some guys too. You don't want to be, while everybody's trying to grab their coaching staff, worrying about a GM. Nobody else was looking at GM once the Jets and the Raiders filled their spots. So there's the only timetable we're working against here in Jacksonville is the NFL Combine. So I think not knowing that you were going to make the move, then forming what now is, what in my opinion is Shad, Tony Baselli, Liam Cohen, who's going to have a major say. I don't know where Ethan Waugh now is in the process, considering he's a candidate, so he probably isn't involved in the process. Maybe Mark Lamping is, who just got extended today, by the way, as well. So I think it makes a lot of sense that now they do their due diligence, they take their time with it. And again, also, I think it's worth noting they're not up against the clock in this, other than the Combine, but they're not up against another team for competition. They're only up against, hey, do you want this opportunity or do you want to stay in the job that you're currently at? So I think this makes a lot of sense. I do think it will move kind of quick, though, too. I think one thing we learned about the coaching process for the Chicago Bears, for the Jags, they did their first round of interviews, and after that, it did go pretty quick. Like, I don't think this is going to play out much longer than the middle to the end of late next week. And there is a report right now from Albert Breer actually saying Ian Cunningham will interview on Friday for the Jags GM job. So, yeah, I think it's going to move. And I'm not surprised. But I think this is the right way to do it, to answer your question. I guess the only thing you're really getting into is, like, should Shad have in the drawer or somebody have in the drawer, like, hey, these are my potential GM candidates, right? Like, if I do have to move on, I still think, like, Shad probably has a little bit of a list, and that's where you saw the initial list. The Cunninghams, the Greenbergs from Tampa, and then they start adding because Liam Cohen has his own list. And maybe Tony Baselli has his little due diligence that he's doing too to create more of a list. And they investigate a little bit more because it's a reality.
And you think, when Liam Cohen finally, signed his name to come here, I mean, I'm sure there had to be some sort of conversation of what the GM was going to look like and maybe what he was looking for a little bit. I mean, come on, that's, it's obvious. But I mean, like, I don't know. I'm excited for the envelope game. Not really, though, because I have to learn like 25 new names, it seems like, and try to spell those names correctly, which is even going to be more of a nightmare. I mean, when we went through this whole head coaching search, like, it was fun, right? Because we all kind of had things that we were looking for, right? You had the intangibles, you had the characteristics that I wanted. Some people wanted the offensive-minded coach. I wanted more of the defensive guy, the culture builder. But, like, there were labels, and there was great debate to be had amongst those labels. The GM's different, right? Because, like, let's be honest, Brent, what are we really looking for here in a GM? Obviously, a guy that can draft well and bring in free agents. Like, we get all that. But I guess the real question is, do you want to see it come from a franchise that's had a lot of success? Like, what are we looking for here, Brett, in terms of what's going to make a good GM here in Jacksonville?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean,
I really don't. No, like, I get it. It's a fair question, and I think we just don't. It's going to have to be an aligned vision, right? Like, and you're going to have to talk a similar language. But you don't need to talk the exact same language. I've said this many times. You don't necessarily need somebody that thinks exactly like you to work really well. You want some of the other qualities in a guy that's going to bring the other end of things where you're a little bit on the weaker side. So it's not an exact blueprint of what Liam Cohen is, and you don't want that, or Tony Baselli, but you want a vision of, my guess is somebody's going to come in here, and they're going to say, hey, we need to build up the trenches. We want to play physical football. Baselli wants that. Cohen wants that. We want to be able to run the football. We want you to believe in Trevor Lawrence because we all believe in Trevor Lawrence. Like, if you don't believe in Trevor Lawrence, don't even come for the interview, right? Yeah. So, like, there are definitely those kind of things. And outside of that, man, I just don't know. I think there are things to like in all these different guys, and most of that that I've seen when we did the 6 or 7 that were on the list is it had a background of Philadelphia, some had a background of Baltimore. And there was a common thread there where it's like, okay, well, these are organizations that have been good now and have done it over the last decade plus. So if you learned there how to do some of the things, now you've been here, you've learned from either mistakes or good plays. Like, I think they're looking in the right spot because there's pedigree there that has said, okay, these guys get it. These organizations get it. We need to bring some of that to Jacksonville. Like, think about the GMs that the Jags have hired. And there haven't been a lot of them, right? For Shad Khan, he's only hired 2. So Dave Caldwell, which is okay to be a hot candidate coming from Atlanta at the time. And by the way, Atlanta was a good organization. And Dimitroff, who ended up getting fired, he had a nice run in Atlanta. But they weren't the king of the league. They weren't like, this is how you do it. This is how you do it for 15 years, 20 years. That's not what Atlanta was. Atlanta had started to do it and do some nice things, easy to draw from. But they also had a little Polian lineage to them, Caldwell did, where that's the guy that had done it for a long time in the league. So I think you were barking up the right tree in that sense. The bulky one's totally different because he wasn't young and trying to find the guy that's going to be the good. He had already done it in San Francisco. It's a really weird path. I don't think you're going to even come close to that path because you're not interviewing that path at all this go-around. So I think this is likened a little bit more to the Caldwell thing where, okay, the guy's done a pretty good job with Dimitroff. He comes in as like it could be the next hot thing, but he also has the Polian tree and connection as well. Well, that worked in the league for a long time. So I think that's why the Philly guys stand out for me. If you have lineage to Philly and Baltimore, or that's what Ian Cunningham does, and if you have lineage to Philadelphia, I feel like that's a good spot to be. Now, does it mean you have to? Well, the Rams dude, right? The young guy, Gladstone. He doesn't have that, but he's got the Rams. Well, the Rams are a good one to have right now. That's some pretty good lineage. Look what they've done, cutting edge stuff from him. It says your scouting looks a lot different with this guy, this young Gladstone. So is that the way Shad wants to be? I think that intrigues Shad a lot right now. And if you look at their decision makers, we got a lot of first timers, and that means cutting edge, or it feels a little bit more cutting edge. I could see that. But I'm going to ask you one more question here, and I'll speak the elephant in the room. We don't mind doing that. Do the Jags need to hire a minority in this spot? And I shouldn't say need to, but would it be good to? By the way, there are a lot of minority candidates on their list. But, I mean, they've got in Jacksonville alone, I know you have a minority owner. So, I mean, that's like, it doesn't get brought up. But you have an EVP who's not a minority. You have a head coach who's not a minority. You haven't had a head coach really that is a minority. And again, I don't say it needs a bad way to say it, but like that's part of how is the part of the way the league looks at it, is the part of the way anybody looks at it. Does it matter? Like, I don't think it matters much because it's like, get the guy that's going to win, get the woman that's going to win. I don't care, right? Like, I don't care. Get whoever's going to win. You go get the best candidate. But they have a very white front office.
There can be some of that perception, Brent. And honestly, man, I didn't even really think about it until you brought it up. And then when you just mentioned, I'm like, oh yeah, there really isn't a lot of the diversity on this team. I mean, I'm kind of with you, I think, where I hope the best candidate gets taken. But yeah, man, like, and once again, forget the optics. I just think what's right, and what's wrong. And yeah, I mean, I think there are a lot of talented guys out there that don't get opportunities for whatever reason. So I just hope that they're really bringing the best guys, right? And if that's black, Asian, a female, whatever the case may be, it doesn't matter as long as they're suited for the job. So let me ask you this in terms of, and I'm kind of freezing right now, but hopefully you can still hear me. What in terms of this job in Jacksonville, as a GM, is it highly coveted? Like, do GMs go to jobs and think, okay, the quarterback's already taken care of, like, I want to go there? Or do GMs look at it and be like, oh, well, they already got a quarterback, like, I'd rather draft my own guy, have my label on it, have my trademark on it, and then work from there? Like, what do GMs look for?
Yeah, I think I think it's a good job to go after. I think right now, I said this earlier in the show, you would covet this job. And the reason why I said it, we were talking about bigger picture, the end of the decade. You got a new stadium open up. There's fun there. There's some things to get through, but there's fun about a new stadium. This is a team that already has a quarterback that has some cornerstone pieces. Now, again, if you like those cornerstone pieces, you're interested in this job. You've got a young, fresh coaching staff. You have a good owner. Like, this screams to me like a great job. And you have a division. Again, I'll always throw the division thing out there where you can have some success. You've got an owner willing to spend. So, I mean, I don't know what you look for as a GM. Like, I've never thought about it that way. But I've got to believe as a GM more than even a head coach, the owner really matters here. Because is the owner going to pigeonhole you at all? Is the owner going to let you do your job? Is the owner going to give you money to do your job and give you the resources to do your job? Well, boy, does Shad check all those boxes. I mean, he's unbelievable when it comes to that. So he's one of the best in the league when it comes to that. So he is going to do that. And then on top of it, you don't have to go. There's no pressure for you to go get the quarterback. You got the quarterback. If you like him, the rest of the organization does too. And he's already locked up. Okay, that's cool. And then the cornerstone pieces, I think, too.
Thing. I mean, that's the biggest thing, right? Because we always say, what's tied more to a GM? I mean, it's obviously wins and losses, but it's the quarterback position. And if you already have your quarterback in place, then yeah, I agree with you. I think that makes things a little easier to get the guy that you want. I think it's a little more appealing. I just don't know, though, like if GMs look at it and be like, hey, I'd rather like draft my own guy so then I can say like, hey, I brought him here, as opposed to having a guy already in place. Listen, I mean, I'm so out of that realm and have no idea like what people think about it. Maybe some guys think differently, but I would think if your franchise quarterback's in place, then that's kind of an enticing job because it takes the pressure off of the GM to try to find said franchise quarterback.
Yeah, I think the more you ask that question and I work through it, and I mean, I said what I said because I think those are the primary reasons. This really comes. Do you believe in Trevor Lawrence? Okay, yeah, I like Trevor Lawrence. And I think a lot of evaluators like Trevor Lawrence, right? There's not a lot of evaluators you find that don't like Trevor Lawrence. And so you like Trevor Lawrence. Okay, well, the rest is just beautiful, man. I got an owner that doesn't meddle. I got an owner that's willing to spend. I got an owner that gives us resources. We already have some players here that if we make some moves and figure things out and make some right, I mean, we got a head start. Like I got
fantastic media. Very friendly media.
You've got, and by the way, the things that you said about Ben Johnson going to Chicago or elsewhere, doesn't it feel like now Jacksonville is putting in place in terms of a vision, right? And an alignment. Like now it's like, okay, you've got everything. You just fit into the puzzle here. And as long as you believe a lot of the same things they're preaching, then this is perfect for you. I think it's an awesome job. Forget about like an okay job. It's an awesome job if you want to be a GM. Now, there are only 32, so they're all awesome. You'll make it work. You'll figure it out. But this is, if you're a first-time GM especially, where you don't even know any better, you couldn't, I think there are a few spots you could walk into that are better. Really?
Yeah. Obviously, like, and once again, I haven't seen this list. Like, I don't know if, what was his name? Is it Glenn Dorsey, guy from, I was with in Kansas City.
Yeah, Dorsey.
Baker Mayfield.
I don't know if it's Glenn. Is it Glenn? But it's Dorsey. John Dorsey.
Yeah.
John Dorsey.
Thank you, John Dorsey. I should know that he's from Wisconsin. But like I don't know if he's in the list or whatever, but like, do we get the vibe here that it's going to be a first-time GM? It's going to be a younger guy, and like, how does that make you feel? Because right now it seems like this whole roster, like this coaching staff, is constructed of first timers, of very young guys. And like, would you almost see him maybe go like in a more like seasoned role? And I'm not sure what that really looks like in terms of experience, but would you rather see him go with maybe an older GM who's been around for a while, who, has kind of earned his stripes already?
Yeah, I get it. And I think there's a reason to make a case for that, given all the inexperience. But this is not going to be a GM-centric building, so I don't like the idea of it. I don't want the old guy, and I'm like old, right? Old guy coming in and being, well, this is the way we're supposed to do it. This is the NFL. I think Shad's trying to get away from that this cycle. No, we don't. Forget about the way you do it. Forget about anything older or stale. No, we want to do it. We want to become the blueprint. This is how you do it. Right? We want the innovation in here. We want the cutting edge in here. And that comes with first guy territory, in my opinion. And I think everybody we've seen is a first time guy. Like, I don't think you're getting John Dorsey on this list. I think it's all going to be first time guys. They're finding the next star. They're trying to find the next Howie Roseman, the next Brett Veach, you name it. They're trying to find those guys. And I think it actually is the right way to do it. I think it could create a clunky and maybe sometimes problematic trio if you're going to get the guy that's been doing it for years and years and did it this way and watch it this way. Because I think right now the Jags are doing a little bit different. I don't think many people would go first-time coordinator on offense, first-time coordinator on defense, first-time head coach, first-time EVP, first-time, you know what I mean? Like that might not sit well with somebody like a John Dorsey who's seen it and been like, why are we doing it this way? You get that naturally when you get somebody who's been through a lot of experience and be like, why are we doing it this way? They're going to question a lot of things. Now, that could come in a good way. You still need some of that questioning, but I don't think that's where Shad's going with this. I think it's pretty crystal clear, and I'm okay with it. Now, it's risky because I've said this all along, this whole process. We could look back in 3 years, 4 years, and if it doesn't work, it's like, well, that was pretty obvious. I mean, you had a bunch of guys that had never done it before. I mean, write it down. Like record this. We could certainly say that in 4 years if this doesn't work, or 3 years, whatever it is. That they have set themselves up for that. But I'll also say this, here on February 11th, 2025, I'm okay with the idea of it. Let's try it. Let's see it. Let's see if we're ahead of things a little bit more than trying to chase and catch up. So we'll see where it lands.
Yeah, I'm never going to fault the team for trying to swing, right? For a team trying to improve themselves. So, yeah, I mean, 3 or 4 years from now, hindsight's going to be 2020, and we'll see how this whole thing pans out. But I don't know. I guess like on the list, like, listen, I'm going to temper expectations because I made the mistake in the past when you bring in guys like Ryan Nielsen, when you brought in Doug Peterson, heck, we even brought in Urban Meyer. Like I was very excited for all those hires and everything. And you saw how it kind of turned out. So am I excited for this round? Sure. But I'm also like, I'm not going to parade around and saying, all right, here we go, Super Bowl. Like I'm not to that point yet. I'm going to need to now kind of like, see it to believe it, just because I have so much buyer's remorse. It feels like from the past couple of years, Brent, where I'm trying to like preserve myself and not get hurt again,
Yeah, I think everybody's doing that here. I think we all know what it is. You can have positivity and good outlook and hope, which I think is all here in Jacksonville. And that's okay, and that's fair, and that should be. Listen, I'm a positive guy. I just talked to 20 minutes at the start of the show. Go back and listen on the podcast of the next 5 years could be really good. You could mimic the mid-'90s. But we also say that with a lot of caution. We know what it's been like, and you've got to get it right. We have no idea if any of this is right. We have no idea if Tony Baselli EVP is right. No idea if Liam Cohen's right. No idea if new GM's right. Heck, we really don't know if the players that they've paid are exactly right. We'll see. Yeah. So there's a lot of unknown here, but I don't think that should limit positivity and optimistic outlook. I see what they're doing. I think it's and getting Balky out of the way of that so it's not disjointed. Forget about Balky, the person. It's not on him. It's just that it's not disjointed. Now it's all aligned at the same time. It's the reset that we were looking for. We think that's the right way to go. And now if everything is planted out, all these things are acting on the way they're saying it, then this is headed in at least a positive direction to begin with. We got to take a timeout. The deadline for the envelope game, let's call it the weekend. Just to be safe. How about that? We'll say Friday. So you got a few days. Let's see if we see any more Adam Shelfer tweets. Very good, Mr. Hugo. I like it. We did not win the Golden Typewriter, by the way. I know you asked that question earlier in the show, Mr. Hugo. We did not. Although Weber said he birdied 17, and then he's like, well, yeah, it was on my second ball. That doesn't count, man. I shouldn't say that. He's going to be mad now.
Winter rules. I like it.
Yeah, winter rules. The second guy is always good. Or the last guy could be good. Is he? Kellen Moore, Super Bowl champion offensive coordinator for the Eagles. He is the new Saints head coach, which is kind of old news and anticlimactic. Last time something like this happened was Kevin O'Connell. That worked out for the Minnesota Vikings. Will it work out for the New Orleans Saints? We'll be right back on the Brent and Austen Show. Brian Thomas Jr. and Liam Cohen. Daniel Griffiths gives us a look at why this could be a heck of a combination. It's next. When it's time to get a new car for anyone in your family, just remember, nobody but Nimnick, the #1 Buick GMC dealer in Jacksonville. Get the latest price breaks on 2023 and 2024 models or the newest 2025 vehicles in the showroom on Phillips Highway or shop online at nimnickbuickgmc.com 24 hours a day. GMC Sierras, Yukons, and the redesigned Acadias, or get the all-new redesigned line with Buicks. It's nobody but Nimnick, and part of the reason why is this is a first-class buying experience here at Nimnick Buick GMC. You're not just a customer, you're a friend. This is about getting a vehicle that best fits you and getting you on the road, and also helping you and your family down the road. Nimnicht has a treating you right guarantee. Courtesy, respect, fairness. And most Buicks, GMCs, and Jacksonville's only Car Bravo dealer, nobody but Nimnicht. Who has put in the most years and stands behind a better experience? Nobody but Nimnicht. GMC. We are professional grade.
2024 provided plenty of memorable moments for the Jacksonville Armada on the pitch, including another conference championship game appearance for Tommy Krasanovich's under-23 men's team.
They sit in the dying moments.
Debuting this year for the first time, the girls in blue, as the Armada fielded a women's under-23 side in the WPSL and made its presence known with some highlight moments.
Potential goal of the season.
Then attention turned to the future, with MLS Next teams representing the Armada badge in 3 age divisions this fall, including an under-19 squad ranking among the best in the state. Those teams are a big focus on Fleet and Footy, covering the big soccer stories each week on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network.
I'll put one in the back of the note for you.
Join us for player profiles, fun interviews, and the very latest on the Fleet and all things footy. That's every Thursday at 2 p.m.
I've been telling you about CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing for a long time now. Their drinking water systems remove up to 99% of contaminants.
We've had a Connecticut water softener and drinking water system in our home for more than 7 years. You can see the difference whether you're washing clothes, the dishes, or what I like to do most, fill this up for some coffee every morning, and mostly all day. Remember, if you're not filtering your water, you are the filter. Don't be the filter.
Right now, you can save $500 on a Connecticut Premier Softener and get a free Connect Salt Monitor with purchase. The experts at CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing will test your water for free and determine your water score. Don't know your water score? CGC will find out and recommend the appropriate Connecticut water treatment solutions so you can improve it. Call 904-552-1242 or visit cgcwater.com. Ask about our 90-day love it or leave it guarantee. CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing, an authorized independent Connecticut dealer. Florida license number CFC 1432579.
There's a saying in sports, you can't win them all, but you can win a lot with good folks on your team. Like that one painter, First Coast. It's tough to beat the sun in Florida, so your home fades. It's tough to beat that HOA when they come calling. Beat the sun, beat the HOA with that one painter, First Coast. And it's a good time to do it. Less rain to work around, and painting in mild temperatures is perfect. After all, the paint bonds to the surface so much better. Give that one painter First Coast a call at 904-417-3557 or look them up at first-coast.thatonepainter.com. Fast estimate, guidance on color and HOA requirements, and the highest quality job you'll find anywhere. Be a big winner in your neighborhood with that one painter First Coast on your team.
When it comes to trucks, I know exactly what I want. And at Bozard Ford, they make it easy to get exactly that. Let's go make this truck a little more my style. With Bozard Built, I can create my perfect truck right here. Lift kit? Check. Premium wheels? You bet. Advanced lighting package? Oh yeah. The Bozard team works their magic. From bumper to tailgate, I'm making this truck mine. It's everything that I wanted and more. From the field to the gym to weekend adventures. This truck's built for my journey. Bozard Built. Customized for your lifestyle, built to exceed your expectations. Check out the inventory and available options at bozardbuilt.com. Unleash your dream ride. Customized, covered, and Bozard approved.
Welcome back to the Brent and Austen Show, streaming on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network.
And welcome back here to the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network. See the envelope, the big box? That's the mailbox we've got over there. And now you Could be a part of the envelope game. Sports at actionnewsjacks.com. Who will be the next GM of the Jacksonville Jaguars? You have until the end of the week to get it in. We think that's probably enough runway to make it happen. Winner will get prizes. We did it for the coach, and we got a couple winners, and we'll do the same thing with the GM. Sports at actionnewsjacks.com. That's how you do it. Hey, Daytona 500 week is here, and we'll cover it extensively tomorrow. Stuart Weber, Olivia Tassley will be down at Media Day, so we'll have that for you. We'll be down in Daytona, some live look-ins to some of the conversations, and Stuart does a great job with all the NASCAR stuff. He'll have Cup Date tomorrow at 1 o'clock and Thursday at 1 o'clock as well, so we've got that coming up. But let's give you a little taste of the Daytona 500 in a 1-minute form. Stuart Weber catching up with some of the drivers in the last couple of weeks.
I actually do look more forward to the 500 than I used to back in my early years. I feel like I'm much more prepared and do a better job, even though the results still don't look any different. I feel like we're up front quite a bit. So yeah, I feel like we have a good understanding of what it takes to run up front, and just gotta, hopefully get some luck on our side and be in front of the wrecks or miss the wrecks or whatever the case may be, and at least get a good finish. But a win would obviously be amazing.
Any extra confidence seeing a Hendrick car in victory lane in the 500 a year ago?
I think for sure, whenever your teammate wins, it definitely gives the whole team a boost of confidence. And we were all strong on the super speedways last year. So, I look forward to it. We all work really well together, us and all the Chevy teammates. So, we'll go there and try and do a good job.
We should have a thing like name that driver, right? We do like name that golfer as well, like for you guys. I got it. Kyle Larson, that's who it was right there, heading into the Daytona 500. So more of that conversation coming up throughout the week and really throughout the months on Cup Date right here in the Action Sports Shacks 24/7 network. You simply find it at actionsportshacks.com. And so Stuart does a great job with all our NASCAR coverage. We'll have a Road to Victory Lane presented by Gator Nationals special coming up at noon on Sunday from Daytona International Speedway. We'll be down there. That's on Fox 30. So a lot of Daytona 500 coverage coming up this week as we hit the NASCAR season full throttle. Brent Martineau here, Jason Hamby as well, and also Austen Lane down in South Florida. His fight announced March 1st against Mario Pinto in Las Vegas. Next UFC fight. We're excited about that. Coming up in a couple of weeks on a Saturday, on the first day of March. You know what else we're excited about, Austin, around here is Austen Lane. Not Austen Lane. Brian Thomas Jr.
Yes.
Man,
I'm just honored to be even mentioned in the same breath as Brian Thomas Jr., Brent, so thank you very much.
I don't know why I said Austen Lane, but I will say Brian Thomas Jr. And Daniel Griffiths, who has contributed to our show from time to time. We're going to have him contribute a little bit more. I really like the stuff that he does on social media and some of the metrics that he puts out. He's playing with some deep dive conversations. And so we asked him to give us a little something. And it's going to be a surprise from here or there what we get. But he leads the way here with a conversation about Brian Thomas Jr. and Liam Cohen. And when you think of that, like the one thing I think about is when Cohen said, man, he can even get it done from the slot. It was like, whoa, it was like Cohen thought Brian Thomas Jr. this way, like the rest of the folks in the draft seem to think as well. Like he does this at LSU, but can he do some of these other things? Probably the reason why he dropped to number 23 to the Jacksonville Jaguars. And then the Jaguars showcased him and they said, oh, we can do this with him too. And Cohen's eyes kind of lit up when talking about it, and I don't know what that means from an X's and O's standpoint, but the bottom line is it sounds like what Cohen was saying, they're going to move him all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, what it sounds like, and I think this is why Cohen was so excited, is because he understands that he's got a true number one receiver, right? And I think we talk about a true number one receiver, we can kind of put him wherever you want. He can run the entire route tree. That's pretty rare. Right? Like if you look at what he did in Tampa with a healthy Chris Godwin he was in, with a healthy Mike Evans, which was impressive, but like nothing against those receivers. Cause I mean, Mike Evans is going to be a Hall of Famer one day. He has to be, man. Like the numbers speak for themselves.
Oh, no doubt.
But like you don't necessarily think of Mike Evans as a guy who can necessarily do it all. Like you don't see Mike Evans in the slot. Right, like you don't really see necessarily like Mike Evans doing a lot of bubble screens and things like that. Like Mike Evans he's a deep threat kind of receiver, a jump ball, go get it type of guy, a red zone menace, if you will. Brian Thomas Jr. can do everything. You can put him in the slot. You can run the bubble screens. You can put him on the outside and say, hey, go run 70 yards. We'll get you the ball. Like, the guy can do it all. And that's a rarity, Brent. That's breathing the same rarefied air as, a Justin Jefferson, as a Tyreek Hill. And no, I'm not going to put Brian Thomas Jr. there quite yet. You still have to earn that. But when you look at, the Jamar Chases, the CeeDee Lambs, they can kind of do everything. And I think Brian Thomas Jr. is well on his way to doing that. And I think Liam Cohen understands what he has in his arsenal.
You look at the game through a different lens. I don't really sit there and I'm like, oh, well, he lined up as the X receiver, lined up as a slot receiver. Like, I really don't view the game that way. I don't watch it and consume it that way. But I mean, look at according to Daniel Griffiths and the numbers that he put out there: 465 deep yards, right? Third in the NFL, 592 yak yards, fourth in the NFL, 7 slot touchdowns. Again, that's the one that really catches your attention because they're moving him around. How do you look at Brian Thomas Jr. in his most effective use? Because, I mean, if he can run from all these different positions, we think the deep ball is still his thing, right?
No,
as him and Trevor. And Trevor's good at it. Trevor's a good deep ball thrower. Like, he thinks he's good. I think he's good at it. And I think his numbers showcase that he's pretty good at it. And you've got a guy that also matches that on the receiving end.
Yeah, I mean, having that deep ball guy, and once again, I think Liam Cohen's going to like this because, this was Mike Evans. Like, you love it, Brent, because it keeps defenses honest, right? Like, when Tampa Bay will try to run the rock and everything and pound it and get their yards in the ground, like, sometimes you would see defenses try, okay, well, we got to stack the box a little more. All right, well, then have fun stacking the box when Mike Evans is going to try to run a go route, and let's see what happens. And Baker Mayfield can get him the ball, 60-plus yards. So to me, that deep route, it keeps defenses honest. But what you like from Brian Thomas Jr. out of the slot is like he's a mismatch nightmare. Because usually you think of like your slot receivers as more of like these shifty, agile, shorter guys, right? And usually that's what they are. But when you have Brian Thomas Jr., who, had a ridiculous 40-yard dash, who has size, who has strength, and guess what? He's got the footwork to back it up. I'll take Brian Thomas Jr. over any nickel corner twice on Sundays.
Yeah.
Because he's that capable. So he's a mismatch nightmare. And you don't see a lot of slot wide receivers built like him. I'm trying to think of like a comparison that you could even say. And there was the one guy, and I can't even think of his name, and maybe Hamby knows, maybe Brent. There was one slot guy, I think he played for Philly, might have spent some time in Washington, maybe. He was like 6'4". He was an enigma, but he's primarily a slot, and he was like a Pro Bowl or anything. But I remember like watching him. This was probably 5, 6, 7 years ago. I remember watching him thinking like, wow, like this guy is a little different because you don't see slot guys that big. Well, that's what Brian Thomas Jr. can be.
Well, it's interesting. You don't have the art. Daniel wrote an article to go along with this as well, and he actually said, like you said it, mismatch nightmare. He puts it in. Jaguars' pursuit of an elite outside receiver. They also got a mismatch nightmare in the slot as Thomas led the NFL in both touchdowns and yards per route. Again, not really sure exactly what that means, but I trust it. 3.3 yards per route by players with at least 100 routes from the slot. And keep in mind, Thomas was 82nd in routes run from the slot, which means could you get a more heavy dosage of that to create that mismatch that everybody's talking about right now? And he runs more out of the slot. And see, when you ask about who do you compare to, and I'm not trying to compare player to player. I'm talking about comparing a role. Could we go to CeeDee Lamb? In that sense, where they utilize him a lot out of the slot, but he's got capabilities to run all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, see, to me, Brent, it depends what this wide receiving core is going to look like. If it is the way it is right now, I mean, do you really feel confident using him so much in the slot if you have a guy like Christian Kirk still on the team, right? And like, do we think Gabe Davis can be that deep threat like we expected him to be last year? We haven't really seen it yet. So to me, it all depends what the personnel is gonna be. If they address wide receiver in the first couple of rounds, if they address wide receiver in free agency, and you get him a quality piece to match Brian Thomas Jr., then yeah, I say let's do mismatches all day. Let's put this guy in the slot because most slot receivers, if you think of like a like an Adam Thielen type. Like they're great possession receivers. Like they're going to get you first downs, right? When it's 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, all right, let's go to Thielen because he's Mr. Dependable. But what makes Brian Thomas Jr. different is you can go to him on those situations, but he's always a threat to take it, a 7-yard slant or a 8-yard out and turn it up for a 70-yard gain for a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
Because
something the Jags have been missing, right?
Correct. Because he's that dynamic. He's that, fast-footed. So fast-footed, that's a word. So I just think it all depends what your personnel looks like. I think if you keep it right now with Christian Kirk, Gabe Davis, Brian Thomas Jr., and Evan Ingram, then I think you're going to see Brian Thomas Jr. have to play the outside a little more just because that's what the personnel is going to dictate. But I feel like if you can get another guy who can take the top off, who commands respect from the defense, then yeah, let's put Brian Thomas Jr. in the slot.
There's a lot of thoughts that go through my mind here. One is the slot and screen game about to take off. We'll get to the screen part of this in just a moment, but also let's just dream big and just say, okay, you get T. Higgins or you get this Tet McMillan kid at number 5.
Brent, come on, man. Don't even tease me with the T. Higgins, man.
But if you did something like that, you got him. Now that and you're right, and let's just say you moved on, and I'm not always a big fan of moving on because I love Christian Kirk, but you moved on from him, and now you do open up a spot where, like, YB Forwarders bring up Parker. Okay, you've got a guy that can also play there too, and you like his skill set, so you can do that on a cheaper way, but he's not going to play all the snaps, so now you have this Brian Thomas Jr., you're able to move him all around and you play him more from the slot. His reps from the slot go up because you've got a Higgins or McMillan, you've got another outside threat, something like that, so you don't have to just stick him there. It opens up a lot of different possibilities depending on how you want to use BTJ, and I think that's where this offense might begin now. It begins around Trevor Lawrence and Brian Thomas Jr. How are you going to map this out, and how are you going to play it with these guys? Where do you want him the most? And then that could impact what you do in free agency and also the draft. Before I ask you about the screen game and we wrap up this thought with this Daniel Griffiths little contribution, we appreciate him. We'll tell you where to find Daniel as well on social media in just a moment. Got to tell you about the Amelia first. Let's get to that, Hamby.
What is the Amelia, if you don't know?
It's going to be one of the big parties up in Amelia Island, the Ritz-Carlton Amelia Island Resort up there at the Golf Club of Amelia 2, March 6th through the March 9th. Elio Castroneva is going to be the big honoree, and you can be a part of it. Tickets available, AmeliaConcours.com. That's ConCours.com, AmeliaConcours.com. 30th year of the Amelia up there in Amelia Island. All new Thursday night opening celebration, Saturday Cars and Community, Legends of Speed dinner, Broad Arrow auction, Concours delegates, all part of it. Ride and drive opportunities too, which those look like some pretty cool rides. So check it out at AmeliaConcours.com. As we wrap this thought up with Brian Thomas Jr., I bring in the screen game real quick and get your thoughts on that, Austin, because as Daniel points out in this article that he shared with us, and we saw the numbers out of the slot from Brian Thomas Jr., the screen game is also big for both Liam Cohen and Shane Waldron, who he brings over as the passing game coordinator from the Chicago Bears. And while everybody does get a little bit exhausted with the screen game is very much a part of the offense, especially if you can get a guy who can beat you deep and also can work with the screen game. And this is one area that I was impressed with BTJ, his ability to navigate the traffic, right, and see the vision of when he gets the ball in the open field. I thought he showcased that toward the latter part of the year as the Jags were force-feeding him the football, and I like what I saw. So he could be heavily involved in the screen game here with these guys calling the plays.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think I'm frozen again. Can you hear me, though?
Yeah, we're good.
All right, cool. Yeah, I mean, without a doubt, Brent, and this is the crazy thing about it. We were kind of asking for it the entire season of, hey, get Brian Thomas Jr. the ball more, and then it finally, due to injuries and everything, it came out of necessity. But you saw it. Didn't matter if it was the long go route, if it was a bubble screen, if it was a slant. When you got the ball in Brian Thomas Jr.'s hands, good things happened. And your offense actually resembled an offense. So, yeah, I mean, whether it's bubble screens, whether it's slants, but Put him in the backfield and let him run the football. It doesn't matter, man. It's just when the ball's in Brian Thomas Jr. hands, good things are going to happen. I think Liam Cohen understands that. Now, I think the biggest thing is, yes, you almost have to like force him the ball sometimes to get his targets, but you can't play outside yourselves, right? And I always allude back to when the Vikings came to Jacksonville, right? The Vikings should have blown the Jacksonville Jaguars out, right? They were moving the ball up and down the field, but when it got to the red zone, it was, hey, let's try to make Justin Jefferson happy. Let's try to make Austen Lane's fantasy football team happy, and let's try to get Justin Jefferson some touchdowns in the end zone. And that was kind of their Achilles heel that game, because you saw turnover after turnover in the red zone because, well, they were trying to force feed Justin Jefferson to try to up his numbers a little bit. So you have to do it within reason. But the way it looks right now on this roster, Brent, like, yeah, he's got to be the focal point. He's got to be the go-to guy.
Yeah, no doubt. By the way, look up more from Daniel Griffiths at Dan D. Griffiths. Dan D. Griffiths on Twitter and X at Dan D. Griffiths. You'll see some really good stuff. Part of the reason why we're having him contribute to the show here almost each and every day with a nugget that we can get involved with, a little deeper dive on the Jacksonville Jaguars or maybe just the NFL in general. We'll see where it goes. You can always find more at actionsportsjacks.com as well. Thanks to Dan for chipping in on that. Good conversation about Brian Thomas Jr., Liam Cohen, maybe a match made in heaven with these guys and the Jacksonville Jaguars offense. And, of course, the beneficiary of all that is really Trevor Lawrence. Here it comes right back to Trevor Lawrence because he's got a guy. All right, Austen Lane, Jason Hamby, they're going to take you home here tonight. I got a couple of meetings. The big news of the day, Mark Lamping extended team president for the Jacksonville Jaguars through 2030. And if you missed any of the early part of the show, you can always find it on the podcast. It replays later in the day on the Action Sports Jacks 24/7 network as well. But we talked a lot about what does the rest of the decade look like for the Jags, and their infrastructure is set up now for the last 6 years of this decade. They do have to have positive results to keep it that way.
If you don't see a pit, it ain't legit. When you hear that, you think Bono's Pit Barbecue, a staple in Northeast Florida now for 75 years. A place that feels like home with friendly service, a meeting place for friends, family, or business occasions. On the menu, the corn nuggets are a favorite in our house, but there's something for everyone. Sandwiches, platters, salads, sides, desserts, and family feasts. You see Bono's all over the place in Northeast Florida. You know, there are almost 20 locations in the Jacksonville area now, so stop on by, sit down, and dine in with Bono's. You can also take it to go. There are drive-thrus in many of the locations, and they have delivery options too. Just download the Bono's app to make things easy. I signed up for the loyalty program, and you can too, to get special offers. If Jacksonville is home, few things feel more Jacksonville than Bono's Pit Barbecue. Celebrate 75 years and many more to come. Bono's Pit Barbecue. If you don't see a pit, it ain't legit.
For the game day hustle and every day in between. Juggling my show, Jags Social, to going under the Friday night lights and a social life, it's a daily tournament. But this ride, MVP status. The all-new 2024 Lincoln Nautilus isn't just my car, it's my personal locker room, office on the go, and VIP lounge on wheels. Let's talk tech. My profile remembers everything from customizing my dash display to setting the ambient lighting and my signature scent. And wireless charging, essential for live tweeting scores. Whether I'm packing for a beach day with friends or heading to the gym, there's space for every passion. After dominating all day, this becomes my recovery zone. The massage feature is like having a personal PT on call. Life's a non-stop game, but with this ride, I'm always on my A game. The 2024 Lincoln Nautilus. Drive your passion.
You trust CGC to make your water great, and now you can trust CGC with your plumbing needs as well. Fast, convenient scheduling, licensed and insured. A quick call away at 904-552-1242.
You never know when you're going to have an issue with a shower, toilet, or maybe it's a sink that sometimes is easy to fix. All right, let's be honest. I'm not fixing anything. I'm totally staging this because when I have a plumbing problem, I call CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing.
Trained professionals, transparent pricing, customer satisfaction. Small problem or even a bigger issue. Right now, you can take 10% off any water heater. The experts with 25 years of experience at CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing can do it all. Call 904-552-1242 or visit cgcwater.com. For a limited time, CGC is waiving the trip charge on all related plumbing calls. CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing, an authorized independent Connecticut dealer. Florida license number CFC 1432579.
Here on Spring Sports Media Day on Action Sports Jax.
It's an opportunity, an education beyond the classroom and the sports arena. Life skills, testing skills, social skills. It's called High School 912, a program focused on maximizing the growth of students in academics, sports, and life. And here's your chance to get involved. If you're a local business, or if you just want to make a donation to help support programs like ACT and SAT boot camps, career days, Leadership Academy, Financial Literacy Academy, and so much more.
All right, another Nice High School Panther, Jack Cole.
High School 912 supports and hosts high school sporting events and several media days throughout the year. For more information on how you can get involved, visit jaxhighschool912.com.
It's the place we party in football season with Jaguars All Access. Welcome to Spring Sports Brewery, everybody. Say hello to our guest tonight. That is Trevor Lawrence. You can bring your party or event to Spring Sports Brewery in Springfield any day and any time. Rehearsal dinners, corporate events, birthdays. Here at Strings, you can enjoy the inside area and the outside area. Good for any weather, good for any occasion. Watch the games, play the games, shoot some hoops. Beer? Yeah, they have that. Plenty of choices. And sure, this is a brewery, but Strings is also a restaurant, and the food is fantastic. A full menu made from scratch meals. And if you need String Sports Brewery to help with a party at your place, they cater too. Family, beer, food, sports. Spring Sports Brewery in Springfield.
Welcome back to the Brent and Austen Show, streaming on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network.
Welcome back to the Brent and Austen Show. Another look at the announcement made officially official yesterday. Austen Lane versus Mario Pinto, March 1st, Saturday night in Vegas. Austen, look.
What up, man?
When you look at the UFC, have you ever been introduced? This could be a very stupid question. Have you ever been introduced by Buffer?
Oh, I have, yes.
Okay.
Let me think how many times. Because in Jacksonville, he was definitely there.
Uh-huh.
I can't remember if he was there in Australia or not. But yeah, for sure Jacksonville, yes.
Okay, so here's and do you rock with the same walkout music every time, or do you switch it up?
No, so I've switched it up a little bit. The one that I do now, I'm undefeated. I think I'm like 7-0 with the one that and I had it for my last fight. So no, I'm definitely gonna rock with it. And I'll quick tell you a funny story, Hammy. I'll let you do your thing about Bruce Buffer. So my grandfather, who, you know, I was a big fan of, kind of helped raise me, kind of taught me how to be a man and everything. He was never a fan of me fighting.
Mm-hmm.
And he never watched any, like, he didn't really know like what I was doing. Like, cause like I would tell him like, yeah, I'm fighting, but he didn't realize like, I think like the stage that I was on, just because I didn't like brag about it. And I didn't want to like, you know, make him upset. Right, and it was funny. Like one time he was asking my mom, he's like, why does Austen fight? Like he couldn't make any sense of it. And then my mom's like, well, you used to ski jump, you know, and like he was a big ski jumper. And he's like, yeah, but like, you know, that's not dangerous. Like I felt calm in there. He's like, well, that's what your grandson feels when he goes in the cage. So like that was kind of the story. But anyways, so when I fought in Jacksonville, once again, he didn't really know what was going on. Like he wasn't watching or anything. And he owned a sawmill in the middle of central Wisconsin. So some guys that I guess had like orders from him for logs he was sawing logs and everything. They came to get the order, and they go to him and they're like, Julian, your grandson's fighting. And he's like, huh? He's like, your grandson's going to be on TV. We have to go watch it. And they call it the cabin. It was like a hunting shack.
Yeah.
We have to go watch it in the cabin. We had a TV. So, so my grandpa didn't really know what was going on. So like he stops his order, he stops sawing logs, and they take my grandfather in the cabin, turn on the TV to ABC, and like lo and behold, here's Bruce Buffer, saying my name and everything. And like, it's funny because my grandfather was never the guy to say like, hey, I'm proud of you, you're doing a good job. But the biggest compliment that I had two big compliments. One of them was, you're doing pretty good for yourself when I got to the NFL. And the other one was, hey, so I watched that Jacksonville fight. I'm like, yeah, unfortunately I got the eye poke. It didn't go so well. He's like, oh, those things happen. Like, he knew what he was talking about.
Right.
But he goes, that guy that said your name. I go, oh yeah, that's Bruce Buffer. He's pretty famous. He goes, that was pretty neat. And I go, oh, thank you. Like that. So that was like, that was my grandfather's way of saying, like, hey, congratulations. Like, I didn't know you're on the big stage. You're doing pretty well for yourself. But like, it was all thanks to Bruce Buffer. But that was the only time my grandfather, who unfortunately, he's passed away now, but that was the only time he ever I think watched me fight. So yeah, but anyway, so yeah, that was the whole Bruce Buffer story. But what do you got, Hamby?
Well, I'm hoping that a couple of local high school baseball players feel get that kind of compliment when I introduce their names tonight. So here's the scene. All right, so obviously I'm coaching varsity baseball. First game's tonight. And we're playing kind of home away from home, while things at the school are kind of in developments for potentially a new field sooner than later.
Okay.
So we're playing at another field, and because this is the first ever year of like a varsity program that the school's ever had, the logistics of like how you do a pregame, announcements and lineups and all that might not be there yet. So I'm the assistant coach, and I'm going to be doing the announcements, the lineups, all that tonight, setting up the national anthem. I'm not singing the national anthem.
Sure.
So I'm thinking, when it comes time to introduce the home lineup, what am I going to go with for background music? Maybe we go with Cody Rhodes.
Yeah.
Go ahead and go with.
Do you go with the Bulls? Like down.
Yeah.
The
We
Alan
could do
Parsons
Bulls.
Project. Yep.
Seth freaking Rollins theme song, Burn It Down.
I mean, Handy, maybe since it's kind of the hot topic right now, let's get some parents talking. Let's go Kendrick Lamar, instrumental, Not Like Us. You can do that.
It's not quite on par lyrically.
Well, no, I'm saying just do like the instrumental. Don't use like the lyrics. I'm just saying just use the instrument, dun, 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 like that. Yeah. Not Like Us. You can do that. Man, are you nervous about it, Hamby?
No,
not at all.
No.
I mean, I'll say this though, man. You got to do a good job because, and this is coming from a guy who got his name announced a couple of times. There's something about whether it's baseball, whether it's football, whether it's fighting, just the crowd mixed with just like the enthusiasm of somebody announcing your name. I mean, I remember. When I played for the Jaguars, like one of my biggest experiences, one of my biggest memories was running out of that tunnel when the smoke was going off, and then and having them say your name. So it doesn't matter if it's the Pop Warner level, Little League level, or high school level, man. Like it's a cool thing.
Yeah. So we're gonna do like it's gonna be funny because we got to do pregame before, which is your infield, outfield. It was real fast paced, and I hit it.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna be hitting that, and then I'm gonna run up, get the announcements, and then calling pitches. Let's run it.
Yeah. So listen, Handy, I don't want to give you any kind of advice. I don't want to tell you how to do your job. But you're talking to a 2-year high school baseball announcer, color commentary guy.
Oh my gosh.
Who unfortunately was asked to resign the position when we accidentally left the mic on. I said some curse words, but you're gonna have to announce the away team too, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so
it's gonna be the most monotone.
Well, no, here's the thing. A little tip that we always had. So in central Wisconsin, there's a school called Bowler, and Bowler had this guy who was featured in Sports Illustrated named Mike Rickert.
Okay.
And Mike Ricker, the reason why he made Sports Illustrated because like he threw a perfect game against Iola, like on the same day, 30 years after like his dad did it against Iola. So like that was like a big thing. He's actually probably gonna go D1, ended up having Tommy John surgery, so he went D3. But he was the cream of the crop around our area in terms of pitching, right? So whenever he would come up to bat, or whenever he took the mound, we always made it a habit of saying, instead of saying like Mike Rickert, we would call him Mike Reichert on purpose. And like the bowler fans would be pissed off. You kind of see him like look to the box, like going like this. I'm telling you, man, any competitive advantage you can get it handy. So if you got to butcher some names to try to throw some of your opposing players off, man, let's go. Hey, it's part of the game.
Might have to.
Let's go.
The worst move would be if I was a true professional and I would consider myself, but I don't have the time. That's what I'll blame this one on. I would go over and ask for the pronunciations of the other team. Well,
nope.
Well, no. The worst move would be to do that and then
still butcher it.
Could you imagine?
You got to do it. Okay, let me ask you this. The team that, I mean, obviously it's first game of the season, hard to tell.
Yeah.
This team that you're playing, I mean, are you guys looking good? What is the odds right now? What does Vegas have you guys at for this game?
It's really hard to tell.
Okay.
But I would say I don't know if I want to put anything out there.
Okay, don't put anything out there then.
I'm feeling very confident.
Okay.
I'm feeling very confident.
I'm just saying, if there's a little, if you need that little edge, start mispronouncing the way teams' names, and then you're good to go.
I'll keep that in mind. Hey,
cool.
Y'all should put me in the Segway game because a name that gets mispronounced a lot is Luka Doncic, and that's the guy that I really want to talk about with you.
Chef's kiss, Brent Martineau special right there. Nice segue.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yep.
I learned from the best. Makes his debut with the Lakers last night. A pedestrian night, but kind of just getting his feet wet. Did you watch takeaways? It seemed like there was a lot of eyes. I mean, rightfully so. Fair to say this was one of the biggest regular season NBA games of the season so far.
Yes. Yeah. And you kind of saw it with like Bron was just geeking out last night, smiling, it seemed like, because he was so excited. And it's wild, Hamby, because like, do I think Luka puts them over the top to win a championship this year? I don't think so. Now, maybe people got something to say about it. Like, I still think that they need a quality big man. I know they kind of addressed it, but like, I'm not sure if they're going to be able to hold up in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
But what you saw with Luka is you see the future, right? And listen, as great as a player LeBron James is, realistically, how many more years are we talking?
Sure.
Maybe we're talking one more, maybe we're talking two more. Like, eventually, the King's going to have a rest and he's going to walk away. And just knowing now that you have Luka, who whatever, I think is 25, 26 years old, to build a franchise on top of, which I'm a firm believer. I get, the GM in Dallas was, does he have the discipline? He's 25 years old.
Right.
All right. And anytime that, especially if you look in the NBA, Hamby, where when you have such natural ability and you have the physique of a guy who is on his second game in the YMCA right now with knee braces and everything, but doesn't matter because dude is skilled and he's crafty. Like, yeah, maybe sometimes you're going to, I don't say take plays up, but maybe you're not going to have like that killer mindset. Like, we expect everyone to be Kobe Bryant. We expect everyone to be LeBron James. And it's not the case, especially in the NBA, maybe now more than ever. Look at Joel Embiid and load management, like look at any player out there. So I think it was a huge mistake by the Dallas Mavericks to say, you know what, we're not going to buy into this guy's mindset. We don't think he has the makeup of a champion, the DNA of a legend. We're going to trade him away. And you did. And maybe it gives you a shot right now in Dallas to win a championship with Anthony Davis. But Anthony Davis is out now. And he may be out for an extended period of time. And guess what? It's not surprising anybody. It's kind of always been Anthony Davis's MO. So you have one guy in Luka right now who's coming back, who's getting his feet wet, like you alluded to. And you have another guy in Anthony Davis who, is a little up there in age, who once again is out right now. So it's not a good look for the Mavericks, and obviously a lot of excitement right now in LA.
Sure. One more thing I want to get your thoughts on. It kind of
Yep.
really got buried, obviously, because of the Super Bowl. But I believe it was Sunday afternoon that Schefter reported pretty much a done deal between as far as Rodgers not returning to the Jets.
Yeah, that was big news.
And obviously the Super Bowl's a couple hours, like we hadn't touched it. A lot of people haven't touched it. Probably a lot of us could have guessed this, but where do the Jets go from here, right? If you were the Jets, would you have tried to hang on one more year, draft young, let him build under him, and then let the guy loose? Or are you playing it this way where you really want new coach, give me a new quarterback?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little surprised. I think Devontae Adams too. They said the same thing, right?
Yeah,
That
they could
they're
pair
gonna-
up in Las Vegas.
they're
Now
gonna
that
go
wasn't
someplace
that's
else.
a rumor, but
Yeah. Man, it is a little surprising just because I don't know, man. Like, and once again, I think the price is way too much for Aaron Rodgers. Not to say that he wasn't going to negotiate and maybe bring the price down a little bit, but only the Jets organization knows what went on this year in terms of in that locker room, right? Like we were privileged to see just like sound bites, Pat McAfee show stuff. Press conferences, but we didn't really know how bad I think it really was in New York, Hamby. And I'm going to be honest, I think it was pretty bad, right? So anytime you bring a new coach in, a new culture, and keep in mind, like I get the vibe that Aaron Glenn doesn't play around, man.
Yeah.
And Aaron Glenn isn't gonna tolerate any kind of BS, right? And he's trying to make a good first impression. So I think, with Aaron Rodgers, you may have ran the risk of having a little drama, maybe having a little bit of the BS. So, I think we are a little surprised because and I get it, we haven't seen it the past couple of years, but Aaron Rodgers is such a household name, such a polarizing name, former MVP, all this stuff. And we've seen him play at such high levels in the past couple of years. And now he's kind of a shell of himself. So I am surprised because it is the name Aaron Rodgers, but when you look deep into it, Hamby, I guess I'm not really surprised. I'm a little surprised, though, about Devontae Adams. But maybe, once again, like you alluded to, it'll be a package deal. Where do you think are you surprised, number one, about Aaron Rodgers, Hamby? And then number two, where do you think he ends up?
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I just think if I were the Jets, I would keep him one more year. That's if. I'm guessing that with the breakdown here is that he didn't want to sign a 1-year deal. That's my guess. But if I were the Jets, I would have tried to pursue a 1-year deal, take a quarterback with the 7th overall pick, let Rodgers play one more, learn under him, and then again, Rodgers goes free, and you set your sophomore quarterback at that point free, and it's his franchise. As far as now, look, there's teams that need quarterbacks, but there's not many. Like the Raiders obviously come to mind, but other than them, like where else is he gonna go? I just think that the I don't know.
Colts, but I guess the Colts kind of they're committed to AR.
Yeah, like you can't have the guy 4th overall as the Colts. Let him play. I know he's played 2 seasons, but he's played like 15 games. I don't think you can do it then. I think you could have done it last year.
Hamby, what about this one? What about the Steelers?
I don't think there's any way. No, I don't think there's any way.
Do you? Oh, man. And this is me, I think, playing more like Madden and fantasy football here. Okay, let me ask you this. Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, who are you taking? And I think it's an argument, man, because I can see Russell Wilson over here, and it pains me to say it.
There's an argument, but at the same time, like Russell just won. Like he didn't win, but he got you.
He had some success
right there, and with I would probably say less weapons on offense. I think the Jets, I'd give the nod. And both good defenses, and he got you there. I'm not
way better coaching though. I feel like
I agree, but I'm not gonna
better culture
make that big of a move for somebody that I don't think can elevate me 3, 4, 5 wins.
Which she probably won't be able to. Yeah, that's fair.
Right,
that's fair. Yeah, man, I don't know. I'm very curious to see what's going to happen. I mean, do you think teams are just done with Aaron Rodgers at this point, Hamby?
Could be. It could be,
Or do
which
you
is
think
insane.
Well, okay, so final predictions. We can put an envelope. What's going to be the story of Aaron Rodgers for the next football season? Will he be on a team? Will he be a starter? Or will he probably just walk away and ride off in the sunset? Oh, and someone saying the Vikings for Aaron Rodgers.
That would be crazy.
That
Like
would be
Favre.
insane.
Oh my gosh. Talk about a heel turn even more.
Can you
almost.
imagine that? The NFL couldn't script it any better.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. If they were to get,
Would he make sense? Okay, let me ask you this then, Hamby. Sam Darnold, Aaron Rodgers.
I'm taking Sam. You just went 14-3.
I know, man.
You just went 14-3.
I know. It's the name Aaron Rodgers, right? But
I know.
But you have to look into what has he done lately. Let me ask you this, Hamby, too. Do you think that? And then I'll let you answer the question I asked. Do you think it turned people off a little bit with Zach Wilson? And it's not the best case scenario here because Zach Wilson was a starter before he got benched and then Rodgers comes in. But some people thought, okay, Zach Wilson can learn under Aaron Rodgers, pick up a couple of things, and then when it's his time, he can take over. Well, Rodgers gets hurt, right? Zach Wilson goes in, and it looked like he didn't learn anything. Looked like he was falling asleep during the assemblies, right? So, I mean, how much does Aaron Rodgers really have to teach somebody as a guy who's obviously on the back nine of their career as well?
Yeah, I understand it. I think I would push back against that one just because we do have Jordan Love. And I think that a lot of people would look at Zach Wilson as a very specific personality. Not to say that he's not teachable, not coachable. It just didn't work, and he wasn't ready. And you have the evidence that, you know, that Rodgers was able to really help out Jordan Love. So I think that would be a worthy investment to bring him in for a draft pick.
All right, then the question, Hamby, you think Rodgers is going to be on a team next year? Or is he going to ride off in the sunset?
I think he'll be on a team.
Okay.
For one more year, and then he'll ride off. I think if he would have had any bit of success with the Jets, like if they would have made the playoffs, he would be done. But I think he's got to prove one little more thing to himself before he's done.
How much does this, assuming whatever, he goes to the Raiders, maybe he goes to the Titans, and let's just say that it goes just okay, right? Because I'm not sure how much really Aaron Rodgers has left in the tank. And I think when you look at it in terms of the politicalness as well with Aaron Rodgers and the polarization of Aaron Rodgers, like how much is it going to hurt his legacy these past couple of years in terms of where we talk about Aaron Rodgers? Because I'm going to be honest with you, and maybe this is me just being a little biased, having grown up in Wisconsin, but I always said when you put Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers in their primes, I think if you put Aaron Rodgers on any team and he immediately elevates that team.
Sure.
I thought Tom Brady needed the right circumstance to succeed, right? And I said if you put Aaron Rodgers on the Patriots, I bet they win more Super Bowls with Aaron Rodgers than they did with Tom Brady. I always thought that, listen, Brady's going to always be the GOAT. But in their primes, I thought Aaron Rodgers was the guy that could elevate whatever team he played on because he had the mobility. He had all the skill set to be the best quarterback in the NFL. Brady had a lot of skill set, but not so much the mobility. But now we look at these past couple of years, and it's like we almost forgot just how great Aaron Rodgers was, Hamby.
Yeah.
So do you think these past couple of years have really hurt his legacy in terms of where we're going to rank him as all-time greats?
We're going to have to continue this conversation because it's a good one, but we're out of time. We're going to have to see you tomorrow. We're bringing it back tomorrow. We'll catch you tomorrow.